The story I'm about to share has haunted my life for a while, and it still does. The event I'm referring to took place a little over 5 years ago, but the memories of that ominous period still haunt me to this very day. My life at the time was fairly simple and well organized. I was divided between attending classes, practicing at the nearby hospital, and taking long runs through the empty streets late in the evening. I was 25 years old, no girlfriend, and I was living alone in a complex apartment in LA. My lifestyle suited me quite well, since I was fully committed to my long-term goals. My apartment, a modest one-bedroom place, suited me just fine. It was nothing fancy, but it provided the sanctuary I needed after long days spent tending to patients and studying for exams. I'm not one to love changes, and I consider myself to be quite introverted, although I do hang out with some of my friends occasionally. This means that I'm quick to notice anything that could cause a disruption in my daily routine, and that's exactly what happened one fateful day. The first time it happened, I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or if I was awake. I woke up suddenly in my bed, seemingly rattled by something, as one does when hearing a loud noise during sleep. If you know the feeling, then you understand my momentary confusion as I laid in my bed, leaning on one elbow. The loud bang I heard was still echoing in my head, and I wasn't yet sure if what I heard was real or not. I stood up, rubbed my eyes, and glanced at the digital clock on my nightstand. 3:22 a.m. Fortunately, tomorrow was my off day, so I could afford the luxury of an early morning ice cream. I got out of bed, stretched a bit, and immediately froze. My muscles paralyzed and my lungs refused to take in air. It wasn't a physical problem, but rather a psychological one. In short, I was paralyzed with fear. I could hear footsteps in the hallway. In my frozen state, I held my breath and tried to focus on the sound to make sure I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't. There were clear steps moving across the hallway, a slow, monotonous, steady pace, and they were coming closer to my door. I had no idea what to do next. That was clearly a home invader. No two ways about it. No one was supposed to visit me that early in the morning, much less coming unannounced and wandering through my apartment like a ghost. So, you can only imagine my anguish. The footsteps continued slowly and deliberately, and I found myself holding my breath for an obscenely long time as I strained to listen. They were coming closer and were now right outside my door when they stopped. My heart stopped with them. I was just about to step toward the door when I remembered that the floor was old and squeaky, so not a great idea. I remained frozen in place, only my heart racing wildly in my chest. There was nowhere for me to go, unless I decided to jump out of the 5-story-high window onto the blunt concrete below, which sounded even worse. So, all I could do was wait, breathe as slowly and quietly as I could, and pray. I knew that whoever produced those steps was now at my door, just standing there, completely silent. Somehow, the silence was creepier and more unnerving than any noise I could have heard. Well, maybe not any noise, but you know what I mean. 10 minutes passed, but they seemed like an hour, especially since I had been standing completely still for the entire time. I felt my body going numb and my legs hurting due to being stuck in that forced and unnatural position. I eventually decided to take my chances and approach the door slowly. I ignored my aching legs and took several slow steps. Fortunately, the floor didn't make any noise, but I was still on the edge, ready to freeze at the first sound. I got close to the door, stopped, and began to listen to see whether I could hear anything outside. No sound. The whole situation was unnerving and stressful, and I was slowly becoming restless. I crouched down and tried to look under the door, but the hallway was dark, so I couldn't see anything. No sound, no feet, no shadow of anyone standing outside my door. So I did what any madman would do in my situation. I opened the door abruptly and screamed at the top of my lungs. If you knew me, you'd know how out of character this is for me. To my shock and relief, nobody was hanging in front of my door. I turned on the light and walked into the hallway. The coast was clear. I checked everywhere. The hallway, the living room, doors, windows, locks. Everything appeared in order, and nothing was missing nor seemed out of place. All of the doors were locked too. I almost thought I'd dreamt it all, if it wasn't so fresh and real in my head. I knew I didn't hallucinate as I was wide awake and alert, so the whole situation left me baffled and confused more than anything else. The next several days were quiet and peaceful, although I would sleep with one eye open, just in case. Then, 1 week later, I heard it again. It was little over midnight when I heard the slow and chilling steps drumming across the corridor. It's like they didn't even try to hide. This time, something in me kind of snapped, and I jumped out of my bed, screaming menacingly, and running toward the door. I slammed the door wide open to see nothing. The hallway was empty, which couldn't have been since I heard the steps literally several feet away from my door. This happened several more times over the following 2 weeks, so you can probably imagine my state of mind. At one point, I was actually considering contacting a priest, despite not being religious. But if you thought this was creepy enough, everything would jump up a notch one night. This one night, I was lying in bed, going over some homework I needed to hand in, when I heard a slight shuffle at the door. I raised my eyes and noticed something that made my blood run cold, a dark silhouette sitting motionless in the corner of my room. I froze for a second and blinked, thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me, but the figure remained. I slowly reached for the light switch near my bed while keeping my eyes fixed on the intruder, and I turned it on. The room was empty, and the door was closed. I turned the light off, but the figure wasn't there anymore. Believe it or not, despite how real it seemed, I started doubting what I had just seen. It must have been my imagination, right? The problem is that the same figure appeared in the exact same place again the following night. This time, the encounter was even more terrifying and unexpected. I woke up in the middle of the night with cloudy eyes and got up to get a glass of milk out of the fridge. I walked toward the door, rubbing my eyes, and as I put my hands down, I saw it. It was standing there, approximately 3 feet from me. I probably could have touched it if I extended my arm. My blood froze in my veins, and my heart was getting ready to explode. I couldn't make out much of the invader's features, but it appeared to be a man, shrouded in darkness. However, it only took several seconds for my eyes to get accustomed to the darkness, which allowed me to distinguish a face in the shadows. I screamed involuntarily, stumbled back, tripped, and fell on the floor close to my bed. The figure I just saw was my own. But how could that be? I leaped up and turned the light on immediately, just to see the mysterious silhouette disappear once more. Nothing happened in the following days, but I tried to rationalize the occurrences the best I could. This wasn't exactly an easy task, given that I don't drink alcohol, I don't consume recreational drugs, and I'm not a religious person. So, I'm not exactly prone to experiencing such events. The only thing left was the possibility that I was losing my mind. I didn't feel like that, but I thought to myself, I don't think people know when they're losing their minds. They probably feel normal, just like I did, a thought which scared and frightened me even more than I already was. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary in the following days, so I took my time to share my experiences with my friends, family, and even a psychologist. I got some mixed reactions, starting with incredulity and ending with being made fun of, which I could understand, as I would have done the same to someone claiming to witness such things. My psychologist claimed I may be experiencing some mild psychotic episodes, so she prescribed some mild antipsychotics as a test. The first 2 nights that followed were normal, nothing out of the ordinary. Then, on the 3rd night, I noticed something bizarre. I was brushing my teeth, preparing to go to bed, when I noticed something in the corner of my eye, in my bathroom mirror. I was leaning to the left, trying to grab a towel, and I caught a movement in the mirror, just at the edge of my peripheral vision. I jumped back, slamming my back to the wall, with my heart pumping out of my chest. I was alone in the bathroom, yet I knew I saw something. It was right there, right next to me. I didn't get to see what it was, but it was very close and resembled a person. It all felt very eerie and unsettling. Even though I confirmed that I was the only one in the bathroom, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I finished brushing my teeth and left the bathroom as fast as I could. Not gonna lie, I slept with my lights on that night. If that wasn't creepy enough, the exact same thing happened the following night. But this time, something was different. This time, I was looking in the mirror when it happened. I say it happened, but I couldn't tell you what actually happened. To put it simply, I thought that my mirror reflection appeared slightly delayed compared to my natural movements. If I would move my arm or my head, my reflection would mirror my movement a fraction of a second later. The lag was almost unnoticeable at first, but I would catch it as I got used to it, and once I did notice it, I couldn't unsee it. The uncanny and unnatural movements made me dizzy, as if I was experiencing seasickness. I rubbed my eyes and washed my face with some cold water, and everything seemed normal again. I simply didn't know what to think anymore. Then it hit me. The antipsychotics, surely those were to blame, especially since I had never taken antipsychotic medication before. Maybe what I was experiencing was a natural reaction to the medication. Or maybe it was a side effect that I wasn't aware of. The next morning, I contacted my psychologist to ask her about it, almost certain that she would confirm my suspicions, and she kind of did. She said that she hadn't heard of anyone experiencing such problems, but that it was possible. This helped me about as much as you would suspect, which is not at all. Even so, maybe I was indeed an outlier. Maybe I was that one in 1,000 guy that would experience some rare side effects to the specific medication I was taking. So, I decided not to take it for a couple of days to see what happens. Everything went fine the first night, but the second night would turn my life upside down. I was in my bathroom, doing my before-bed routine when it happened. I washed my face and leaned to get the towel, unaware of what was really going on right there in front of me. As I moved the towel across my face, I noticed my reflection in the mirror, staring at me motionless. The sight was so unnatural and scary that I dropped the towel and I screamed as I slammed my body against the laundry machine behind me. My reflection didn't mimic my movements, as you would expect, but simply stood there, frozen in place. This creeped me even more, and I found myself unable to move or react for the following several seconds. I was just staring at my reflection, not knowing what was happening. My reflection looked like a statue, staring at me with vivid and ominous eyes, paralyzing me with fear. I tried to calm my heartbeats and moved slowly toward the bathroom door, trying to get out. I kept my eyes fixed on my mirror reflection as I was moving slowly and refused to blink the whole time. I felt the adrenaline pumping in my veins as I pressed on the door handle. As I was doing that, my terror turned into horror. The reflection's eyes started moving ever so slowly toward me. The entity's body was completely motionless, but its eyes were moving until they fixated onto me. I barged out of the bathroom and closed the door forcefully behind me. I turned the light off and walked backwards through the hallway, staring at the bathroom door as if it were the entrance to hell, which, for all intents and purposes, was. I didn't know if what I'd just seen was real or not, but I knew I had to get out of there. I dressed up quickly and left the apartment. I spent the night at a friend's house, but I didn't tell him what happened. Looking back now, maybe I should have. Sharing that traumatic experience with someone would have probably given me strength and courage. Maybe I would have found the mental fortitude and common sense to leave the apartment, which would have prevented the dramatic events that were about to unfold. I returned to my apartment the next day, still on edge about the previous night. At this point, the events seemed fuzzy and unclear in my head, almost like a bad dream you're trying to forget. Maybe I did dream the whole thing, or maybe it was some unexpected medication side effect that would kick in later on. I got into my apartment and cautiously scanned the entire place. I don't know what I was looking for, to be honest. Maybe I was just trying to calm my thoughts and gain some control over my emotions. The apartment seemed clear and everything was how I left it, which calmed me down a bit. However, I had classes that day, so I didn't have time to waste. I got home late at night after spending the entire evening drinking and having fun with some friends at a local bar. I wasn't dead drunk, but I wasn't fully sober either. Just enough to be sleepy, but not sick. I knew I had to go to bed because I had an appointment with my psychologist the next day. So, I got in the bathroom, took a shower, got out, and wrapped the towel across my waist. I lifted my head and stood face to face with myself, looking at me from across the open bathroom door. The person I was looking at was me, wearing the clothes I just took off, standing there like a statue. This time, there was nowhere for me to go. I blinked, hoping that the appearance would go away, but it didn't. It was standing there, fixing me with its frozen gaze. "Hey, get out!" I screamed at the top of my lungs, not knowing how to react. As soon as I finished uttering the words, a smile slashed the entity's face abruptly, a smile that seemed more demonic than anything else. The eyes were wide open, almost bulging, and the entire face seemed dead and inert. The mouth was the only thing that seemed alive, as it grinned widely, with a malevolent intent. The entire situation seemed surreal, and I couldn't take my eyes off of the familiar figure staring in my direction. It looked just like me except for its teeth. Its teeth were black and rotten, which made its smile appear like that of a demon. "Get back!" I screamed again, creeped out even more by the sighting. The appearance kept looking at me for a second, frozen in place. Then it moved toward me. I had nowhere to go, and I noticed with horror a knife in its right hand. I raised my hands in self-defense, but it was already too late. The blade pierced my face, through my cheeks, then my neck. I slipped on the bathroom floor and fell back as the warm blood was pouring over my face. I felt the sharp blade digging into my chest and stomach as I was slowly losing consciousness. The last thing I remember was my own face leaning and grinning over me as it kept stabbing me relentlessly. I woke up in the hospital 3 weeks later, but it seemed like a mere second to me. The memory of the attack was still vivid in my head, as if it had just occurred. My family and some of my friends were present, and I was informed by the doctors that I had spent close to 3 weeks in an induced coma. I was stabbed 14 times in the face, neck, torso, abdomen, and arms, which means it was a miracle that I was still alive. It turns out that one of the neighbors heard the commotion and came in to check on me seconds after the attack. They broke into my apartment and called the ambulance as I was laying in my bathroom in a pool of blood. They didn't see anyone in my apartment and claimed that they found me unconscious on the bathroom floor, holding a large bloody knife in my hand. The recovery period is still blurry to me, as if it was sped up. I only remember fragments over the following 2 years, which is how much it took me to heal completely. The investigation that followed lasted less than a year and concluded that the whole event was an attempted suicide. There was nobody in my apartment, as stated by the neighbor who came to my help seconds after the attack. Also, they could only find my fingerprints and DNA at the scene. The consensus was that I was delirious due to the antipsychotics I was taking, which caused me to harm myself. 5 years have passed since that event, and I still haven't accepted this verdict. I know what I saw that night, and nobody can take that away from me. Needless to say, I did some research myself, and I found something absolutely mind-bending. My findings brought up the concept of doppelgangers. To put it simply, doppelgangers are seen as malevolent or even sinister beings that can cause harm to the person they resemble. They may be considered as evil twins or evil counterparts, possessing the same appearance, memories, and knowledge as the person they imitate. Doppelgangers are not limited to any specific culture or belief system, as they appear in various forms across different societies. For instance, in Norse mythology, they are known as Varg, a type of shapeshifter that could assume the form of a person or animal. In Celtic mythology, they are referred to as fetch, a spectral double that appears as an omen of death. In Egyptian mythology, the K is a spiritual double that exists alongside the living person. In more modern interpretations, doppelgangers have been linked to paranormal phenomena, such as astral projection, where a person's spirit is said to leave the body and travel independently, appearing as a double to others. They have also been associated with cases of bilocation, where a person is reported to be in 2 places at once. Psychological explanations for doppelganger experiences include hallucinations, schizophrenia, or other mental disorders that may lead individuals to perceive a double of themselves or others. Some additional theories suggest that doppelgangers could be a result of a glitch in human perception, causing a person to momentarily see a duplicate of themselves or someone else. In some cases, doppelgangers are said to have the ability to manipulate the actions and thoughts of their human counterparts, leading them towards destructive behaviors or unfortunate events. 5 years later, and I haven't experienced anything similar.